Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Sunday, November 23rd. Ian Cameron with you. Alex B. Smith will be here in just a moment as well, ready to break down the Sunday NHL card. 6 games, a little more than we sometimes get on a Sunday. We'll get to those in just a moment. First, we'll look back at a very busy Saturday of NHL hockey action, and it was a pretty good day overall. It would have been really great if San Jose had hung on against Ottawa. It did not happen, but overall, it was still a pretty good day, betting-wise. Can't complain too much. Well, you can always complain because you're rarely going to sweep the board. There's always a couple you can complain about. But the bottom line is it ended up being a pretty solid day. We started with Columbus, Detroit. And if you had joined us on the show yesterday, you remember us saying on the air that we thought the game might start low scoring, but we noted that 5 straight meetings in the series had gone over, and a lot of the goals had been in the second period and in the third period of those games. And we told you maybe look at a live over after the first period in that Columbus-Detroit game. And that is something both I think Alex and I were both mentioning doing. I know I certainly bet a live over after that first period, got a 5.5, and sure enough, the game opened up after that. It ended up going to overtime. We cashed a pregame draw on that game as well. And Detroit coming back from a 3-1 deficit against the Blue Jackets. So great show of resilience from Detroit in that game. Sherratt, Seider tying it up in the third, and then the Cat, Alex DeBrincat, getting the game winner in overtime for a 4-3 victory over the Columbus Blue Jackets in that one. The other afternoon game was another great call, great read. We thought the Islanders were vulnerable in that spot, especially early. And what did it take? Not even a minute for the St. Louis Blues to open the scoring and get on the board. Braden Shen, the captain, 42 seconds into the game to give St. Louis the lead. It was just it's a beautiful bet because you had an idea of the way it would go, and you had a certain angle that you thought made a lot of sense. And to me, it was St. Louis jumping out early. Islanders, their first period of action off a very, very long road trip and a very successful road trip. So the urgency maybe not necessarily there. So we had St. Louis first period money line. We had St. Louis first goal of the first period at plus 135. So it was great to hit both of those quickly and early in that game. I wasn't sure the Blues would hang on and win the game, but they did. 2-1 against the Islanders. It was the Islanders pretty much dominating the third period, but give Jordan Binnington credit. He held the fort and kept the Islanders at bay and allowed the Blues to get a 2-1 victory in that game. So really good to see, obviously, the Blues looks hit early, first period and the first goal of the game. And I had the same philosophy with Edmonton. Now, this game was really big for me on the night as far as why we ended up plus units. This Edmonton game was it. I mean, we swept the board, and I had a lot of bets on this Edmonton-Florida game. 6-3 Oilers. We had Edmonton first period money line, Edmonton first goal of first period, plus 145. Full game money line on the Oilers at plus 115. And over by Fekta, which cashed easily as well. First period over, full game over with the Oilers and the Panthers. So it was, that's the game that really made it a profitable night for me. Great to see it. Edmonton did show some balls last night and guts. Let's give them credit. Florida's dummied them regular season and Stanley Cup final the last 2 seasons, and Edmonton finally said enough is enough. They meant business. They came out strong. They came out ready to go, and they got the job done. Now, Florida did kind of carry the play when they were trailing, and there was a bit of a hang on to it with Edmonton, but you are playing Florida, and you are dealing with some confidence issues right now. You didn't expect it to be a breeze for Edmonton, and they had the 4-1 lead. They let it get to 4-3, but then they put it away late with the late goals that they were able to get both into the empty net. Connor McDavid and Matthew Savoy to put that game out of reach and give the Edmonton Oilers a 6-3 victory in that game. So that game was great from a betting perspective, and it was a fun game to watch. There was a lot of animosity, scrums after the whistle, couple fights. Man, AJ Greer is becoming a fucking annoying son of a bitch. You know that? That guy, if I'm facing him, I'm just so fucking aggravated and disgusted by him. He's becoming one of these guys that, he doesn't always drop his gloves against the bigger guys that want to challenge him, but sometimes he's going to, you know, pick on someone that maybe he can take advantage of. He's becoming that kind of player, spot picker, decide when he's going to get involved. So, yeah, he's becoming a real prick out on that ice. And teams that play Florida are finding that out. More disappointment for Toronto. They lose 5-2 to Montreal, and they lose Jake McCabe to injury. The last thing they needed was another freaking injury, and Jake McCabe goes down in that game. Dennis Hildeby replaces Woll. Woll got pulled. It was a mercy pull, said Craig Berube. We were just giving up way too much. The Leafs got the one win to snap the losing streak. Now they've lost 2 in a row. They just need bodies back, and until they do, they're going to have a hard time. That's all there is to it. No question. So, like I said, 5-2 Montreal. Final score there. We did cash the over by Fecta in this game. I didn't love it because I was concerned about the over, the under run, I should say, for the Leafs the last couple games, but it did end up hitting the first period over, full game over in that game. Philadelphia beats New Jersey 6-3. The moment of the game that swung it toward Philly was 3 goals in 26 seconds. Wow, it's been a long time since I've seen that. 3 goals in 26 seconds for the Philadelphia Flyers, which turned a 1-1 tie, a 2-1 lead into a 1-1 tie, I should say, into a 4-1 lead. I mean, it was just a crazy explosion there in that first period for the Philadelphia Flyers, and then they basically cruised to victory from that point on, 4-1 over the New Jersey Devils in that game. So, and the Devils now, they continue to have their issues and struggles without Jack Hughes. Great win for Seattle. Found a way, tied it in the third, and won it in overtime. 3-2 over Pittsburgh. Back-to-back road wins for them after coming back to beat Chicago. The comeback Kraken all of a sudden the last couple games. Brandon Montour getting the overtime winner for the Seattle Kraken. We did have a small draw bet, so it was nice to hit that in that game. I'm not going to be too mad at San Jose. Yeah, it was my best bet. Would have loved to hit it. Obviously, you never love losing the show best bet, but we've won a lot of bets and won a lot of cash this year with San Jose, and last night just didn't go their way. Ottawa ends up with a 3-2 win in that game. I thought it was one of those games where Ottawa played pretty good road game. We unfortunately, I was hoping we were going to get Askarov in net, but we got Nedeljkovic instead, and at the moment he's not nearly playing at the level that Yaroslav Askarov is, but don't take anything away from Ottawa. They were pretty good last night. Great road win for them, 3-2. And shout out to Hayden Hodgson, who had the guts to fight Ryan Reeves last night. That's not an easy assignment, but when you show that kind of courage, you deserve some praise for it. Tampa Bay 5-3 against Washington last night, so the mini little win streak for the Capitals comes to an end. Logan Thompson yanked after 4 goals allowed early, and Logan Thompson's been noticeably not nearly as good these last few starts, something to keep an eye on. Johansson got the start for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was pretty solid there in net for Tampa Bay, and they get the 5-3 win over Washington. Colorado shuts out Nashville 3-0. This was a split. I had the Avalanche first period puck line, but I did have the team total over as well. That falls short, only getting the 3 goals, but Colorado takes care of a Nashville team that coming off those 2 games in Sweden. We talked about how a bit of a tough spot for them. Utah 3-2 against the Rangers, much needed for the Utah Mammoth. That's why even though I was leaning Rangers, I was not bullish on it, as you guys know from watching the show yesterday or listening to it, that Rangers are hard to trust, and that's why they are hard to trust right now as Utah. And Utah deserved the win. If you watch that game, they were the better team. Mike Sullivan talked about it. We didn't win any foot races. We didn't win any puck battles. And you're going to have a hard time winning games when that happens. Anaheim, another fun game between them and Vegas. Boy, wouldn't Vegas and Anaheim be fun in a playoff series? Boy, oh boy, it certainly would be. What a job by Anaheim, though. They were down 2-0 early. They come back, they tie it. Vegas takes the lead 3-2. Troy Terry ties it 3-3. No scoring in the third period of that game with Schmid and Dostal in net. But then in overtime, Cutter Gauthier receiving a 1 month early Christmas gift from Mitch Marner, who had, The Leaf fans have seen some of those before, blunders and giveaways with the puck in the D zone, and that was a bad one. I mean, for all the Mitch Marner defensive issues and giveaways we've seen in the past from him, I don't know if there was one as bad as that one last night. That was right on the tape of Gauthier. He puts it away for the overtime winner, and the resilient, young, feisty Ducks find a way again, and they beat Anaheim Vegas 4-3. I had the over first period in that. Obviously, that one easily as can be with 5 goals in the opening period, but did have a small piece of the draw as well, and Alex did as well, so it was great to cash that. And then the last game of the night, Devin Cooley for the Calgary Flames gets another victory, 3-2 over the Dallas Stars. He was very good in net once again last night, I thought, especially early, because Dallas's first period was really good, and for them not to score in that opening period, that was all because of Devin Cooley. And the confidence continues to build for him in between the pipes. Really solid win for the Flames. It's been a tough season. Now they've won 2 in a row. That one much more impressive against Dallas, beating a team like the Stars. So give Calgary some credit. A nice 3-2 shootout win for them last night against the Dallas Stars. Of course, Mikko Rantanen, we talked about how he's never had an incident in the past. He has the Romanov incident, and then he has another one last night in the game against Cal. What's gotten into him all of a sudden? I think it's some of it's kind of accidental, but at the same time, it's just all of a sudden now. It's like these dirty player gremlins now are starting to creep into his game a little bit, and that was not a good play for Mikko Rantanen last night in that game. And you wonder, he kind of got away with no discipline in the Islanders situation. May not be as lucky this time around. Alex, your thoughts on what we saw Saturday?
Yeah, that was a much dirtier hit in my opinion, and like I said, you can't be hitting guys when you see numbers. That's what everybody. Yeah, you have to ease up. That's what everybody's response was to the Romanov hit, and now for him to come right back the game after and have a hit like this, like it's and I get it. Guys get frustrated, and of course, when you talk about the fastest game and the fastest players, he certainly is one of the faster guys in this league. You are going to have, plays are going to be a bit reactionary, and they're going to look worse because they're going so fast. But still, you can't be hitting guys in those kind of spots. And he's putting himself at risk because now teams are going to be gunning for him. He's putting his teammates at risk as well. So it's unnecessary. You've got enough skill in your game where you don't have to stoop to that level if you're a Mikko Rantanen. But looking at the Central Division teams in those games, I watched a lot of Colorado, Nashville, which was kind of a sleepy one. And then I did watch Dallas, Calgary late. Nashville's truly the bottom of the Central. Colorado's truly the top. But you could shuffle anybody else through the mix, 2 through 7, and shake out and find who could finish in that Central Division right now. Dallas, like I said, that game wasn't the prettiest of games. Did not expect them to go to OT with Calgary, especially even though we've talked about how well Cooley's played. Cooley was fantastic. That's a game where, Dallas should really win that game by margin. Dallas shouldn't be just hanging around and needing a shootout, or having to go into a shootout to play a Calgary team. That's not a spot where they should be in. You shouldn't a team like St. Louis hanging around with a good team like the Islanders and getting a 2-1 win. That shows you that they still have some fight left. They haven't just completely tanked out yet. Utah's been playing competitive hockey every night. Hawks have been up and down. Minnesota's had a tremendous turnaround in November to where they were in October. It's interesting, and I've been watching a lot of shows this week and hearing people talking about parity, and we've talked about how close games are and how close how every point matters now. We're heading into American Thanksgiving. This is usually the old cutoff point of whether a team's going to be in or out of the playoffs. We damn sure can't say that now because it literally feels like well over 2/3 of the league has a shot at making the postseason. And just in watching that division, slate of games alone yesterday, you could just see where, the races are just going to be tight throughout. And you don't know what teams are going to really separate themselves from the pack or when the separation is going to come.
It was. You're right. Like I said, this is the Calgary. Like I said, Dallas probably should win that game. Cooley, like I said, it continues to be quite the story. A weird, quirky individual.
Yeah, he was great last night.
Yeah, he was. Especially, like I said, that first period is 3-0 Dallas if it's not for him either in net. So it was a very impressive game from him again last night. And it was an impressive day. It was a good betting day, profitable day. let's see if we can build on it here on this Sunday slate where we got a Sunday six-pack of NHL games. And we will begin with a game that starts at the top of the hour. The Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Buffalo Sabres. We have Carolina minus 180 road favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. I went and looked, and I couldn't believe it. I almost, had to, whoa, this is actually facts. Buffalo's won 4 straight at home against Carolina. Crazy. Yeah. I mean, you would never think that. The Buffalo Sabres have beaten Carolina 4 straight times going into this game. So Carolina beat Winnipeg, obviously, 4-3. We love Carolina off a loss. Carolina's actually 0-2 their last 2 games off a win. So, can they get back to stringing a win streak together? This is the final game of their 4-game road trip. They go home to face the Rangers in a game that will be on Wednesday night. Following this, we'll see. It looks like as far as the goaltending situation in this is concerned, I'm waiting on it. But at the moment, we have a Colton Ellis, Freddie Anderson projected goaltending matchup here in this game, although unconfirmed yet. We should know probably in the next, definitely we'll know in the next 20 minutes because, the pregame skate's going to happen before we end the show. So we should have an update for you as far as that's concerned. It is Anderson for sure, it looks like now for Carolina. But who's it going to be for the Buffalo Sabres is the question. I do like over because Carolina is still trending that way. And Buffalo, like I said, we saw them obviously have the 9-3 win against Chicago in the last game. They are on a sudden over surge to the tune of, let me just count it up here, 6-1 to the over in their last 7 games. And with this Carolina team, 4 of their last 5 games have had 7 goals and gone over the total. So I do like the 6.5. I'm only on the full game because this could be one of these games where either it has a lot of goals early or it could be a slow start and then we get the goals later, which I've seen sometimes with afternoon games too, where you have the slow start at 1 p.m. Eastern and then you have a bunch of goals late and then the full game over still cashes. Look no further than yesterday with Columbus-Detroit. I mentioned Alex before he joined us that we love the live over in that Columbus-Detroit game because of the pattern of slow starts and the goals really piling up in the second and third period. And that's exactly what we saw in the Motor City yesterday. So that's kind of what I think this could be, that maybe even if it's 1-0 after the first, or don't be deterred or discouraged if you have the full game over, because I think you can still get there in this game. So I like over 6.5. I kind of lean Buffalo at this. I mean, how do you argue with them beating Carolina 4 straight times at home? And they were dominant and impressive against Chicago. The problem is Buffalo, every time they get a little dose of confidence and great play, it's almost like they get they get soaked in the, and they get all of a sudden caught up in people singing their praises and, whoa, look how great we played. And you forget what the fuck you did to play that way in the very next game. It happens way too much. Look at the Edmonton game early in the week, and then you lose at home 6-2 to Calgary. How do you explain that? That's the concern in the back of my mind. That's ultimately why I'm having a hard time taking Buffalo here, even though 4 in a row at home against Carolina, they have been victorious, and it is a pretty good price, and it is a Carolina team at the end of a road trip where they might be looking forward to getting home. And again, they have struggled in this arena. So, like I said, lean Buffalo. But like I said, I'm bothered by the fact Buffalo can't withstand prosperity. Great win, and oftentimes they shit the bed the very next time. What do you think here, Alex? Carolina, Buffalo.
Yeah, so I'm looking at goalie post. It says it more than likely could be an Alex Lyon start. And now, you have to keep that in mind. These are 2 teams that are carrying 3 goalies. And doing a good job of rotating them, I might add too. We're seeing them balance that out well. Where it's something that
they're all getting action. Yeah.
Right. And you've heard a lot of coaches over the years say that's difficult to do at times with 3 goaltenders. But with the way the league is nowadays and the condensed schedule, these are 2 teams that seem to be doing that pretty fairly. So you have to check and see it. But like there, as of now, it seems like it could be Alex Lyon going, and we do know it's Freddie Anderson going for the Canes. But this is one where I'll wait and grab the over. Like I said, I'll try and get a 6, maybe even a 5.5. I feel like this could slow out, start off a little bit slower, like I said, like we saw with yesterday with Columbus and Detroit. So this is one I'll wait for in that aspect. Don't like a side here. So it's a great trend to look at with Buffalo. If I had to play anything, it would be Buffalo, of course, at plus 150, and this being such a home dominant series head to head. But I like that over. Just want to wait and try and grab a 6 or hopefully even a 5.5.
Yeah, and Lyon has taken a turn for the worse of late. Some of his recent starts have not been good. That's why he hasn't started in a few. I think Lindy Ruff's been looking to just get him, hit the reset button, take a deep breath, get a few days off, regather yourself, and try to come back and play better here. And he might. He's capable of it. We'll see, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, right? You can definitely run. You can run 3 goalies if you're Buffalo because a guy like Lyon, it's not like he doesn't need work in the AHL. You know what I mean? Like you either play him or you don't, and and you're rotating your other guys. And UPL, of course, coming off the injury, and he's always injury prone. So this is actually, once again, like I said with Carolina yesterday, these are 2 good teams that are in a spot to run 3 goalies and do that well.
Yeah, pizza money is what I'm going to end up placing on. I actually just locked it in, a small bet. Pizza money, please, guys, just pizza small, because I can't stress that enough. This is a small bet here on Buffalo, but that's some. And Jonathan, 12-1 for the home team in this series in the last 13 meetings. That's hard to ignore that. And again, for Carolina at the end of this trip, an early game. I don't know if we're going to get the A game for the Hurricanes too. So that's another thing to factor in here in this one. All right, Minnesota and Winnipeg. We've got the Jets -135 home favorites, 5.5 the total. This is a check the Patreon page game for me at the moment. This definitely check the Patreon page. We'll have the card posted for members later on. We're waiting to get some clarity here as far as not only goalies, but is Hartman. I think Hartman and Rossi are still going to be out for the Minnesota Wild. They're not going to be back anytime soon. But yeah, definitely waiting on the goaltending. I mean, it's going to be Comrie unless it's a back-to-back, and then they have to give Milic a look, Thomas Milic, but it's going to be Comrie for the foreseeable future, obviously, with Hellebuck out. I'm waiting to see if it's going to be Gustafsson or back to Jesper Wallstedt here for the Minnesota Wild, who's been just spectacular. Even in the game against Carolina, he had a shutout streak snap, but he still was unbelievable in that game, even though he gave up 3 goals. He couldn't have done much about the 3 goals Carolina scored, and he still found a way to beat them in the shootout, kept them off the board. So I kind of want to take Minnesota here, +115 in this game, especially if Wallsted's in net. And I will remember the last meeting in Minnesota with these teams. I do remember it because I had Winnipeg, and I thought it was a great Winnipeg spot off a loss, and Minnesota was floundering at that time. And Winnipeg was outplayed and badly in that game in Minnesota, real badly, and won in overtime, but didn't deserve it. Minnesota was the better team in that game, and Winnipeg escaped with an overtime win they probably shouldn't have gotten and definitely did not deserve. So, I think Minnesota, if they play that way here, again, big if, but I like the way they're going right now. I do. They've beaten Vegas, they've beaten Anaheim, they've beaten good teams, Carolina on Wednesday, even though they got outshot, thank Wallstedt, and then just put the boots to Pittsburgh on Friday night 5. I like the way they're going right now, Minnesota. So I'm leaning with them regardless. It'll absolutely be a bet, though, if Wallsted's confirmed. Alex, what do you think here, Minnesota, Winnipeg?
This will be a live bet game as far as size and totals go, but they're player props I like. I was on it the game before. Was not on this last game, unfortunately, and that's when it made cash. Matt Boldy, first goal, as JD mentioned. I'm also be on first road team goal, so with Matt Boldy. So it's 5-1 for him to get first team goal for the Wild, 11-1 for him to get the first goal of the game. I also like Jonathan Taves to get a goal. You can get him +450, so that's within bargain bin range. So those are 3 plays I'll have pregame. But anything side of total will just be live. I'll be watching this.
All right, there we go. Good stuff indeed. All right, next up, Seattle Kraken, New York Islanders. Oh, by the way, I do like Minnesota team total. I agree with a lot of people in the chat with that. That's a bet that is not goaltending dependent, obviously, because all you're worrying about is Minnesota getting the 3 goals against Winnipeg and likely Eric Comrie in net. The money line will be tacked on if Wallsted's in net, but I do think Minnesota with that team total only being 2.5 is probably worth a look at the moment because, again, we saw Comrie in his first start since Hellebuck was shut down for the next 4 to 6 weeks, and he gave up the 4 goals, obviously, on Friday night against the Carolina Hurricanes. All right, Seattle, New York Islanders. Islanders -160, home favorites, 5.5 the total. Yeah, I'm on the Islanders here, and I did take Islanders. I split it between – now the money line price is not great here in this game at -160. So what I did was a -1 at +100 even money. You can go -1.5 if you prefer and get a nice plus price just to be safe, just to make sure, -1 plus 100 for the Islanders. But yes, Seattle's back-to-back track record is the crux of this. Ridiculous struggles in the second night of back-to-back games for the Kraken. Jonathan's onto it. 0-14 run for this team on the second night of back-to-back games. And everything adds up nicely here. Seattle feeling a little bit good about the way they're playing. Chicago road win. Pittsburgh comeback road win last night in overtime to beat the Penguins. Now you're on a back-to-back. Islanders off a loss that'll wake them up a little bit, to cool them off after that great road trip, which we knew was a tough spot for them yesterday against the St. Louis Blues. They lose that game 2-1. So it fits both ways. I think Seattle comes back down a bit after the 2 road wins, and the Islanders move themselves or push back up here after a tough loss and a tough spot yesterday against the St. Louis Blues. Now, I know we got to deal with Riddick in net, not Sorokin here for the New York Islanders. So, but I'll say this about Riddick. Riddick has been 2.99 goals against, .896 save percentage. Those numbers aren't horrible for Riddick. And he's only given up 2 goals in each of his last 2 starts, Utah and Dallas, and only gave up 2 goals in those games. He was in net for the Dallas game earlier this week, where the Islanders beat the Stars in Dallas 3-2. So, like I said, it's Seattle's terrible on a back-to-back. Excuse me, back-to-back. So we'll take the Islanders, but we're going to take -1 plus 100. We are absolutely not taking -160. Islanders -1 plus 100. I think this game could get a little bit sloppy. And keep in mind, this is a back-to-back situation here for Seattle. There's also Lane Lambert back in Long Island. Of course, he was the head coach of this team, many, many years ago. It looks like tonight in this game. Now, keep in mind, Joey Decord was rested last night, so he's definitely, you would think, even though it's not confirmed, Joey Decord's going to get the start. But I do think, we could get a little sloppiness with how much hockey, how much travel these two teams have had to do of late. So I'm going to take a small bet on the over 5.5 here as well with the full game total. Alex, what do you think here? Kraken, Islanders.
This is a spot where I like the combination of Islanders money line with the over 4.5. You can get that minus $1.02 at MGM, minus $1.05 at FanDuel. I think that's kind of the best way to play this. I could see this when, if it gets out of hand, if it could be maybe 5-2, 6-2 kind of an Islanders game. If not, it could just maybe kind of, like I said, go back and forth and maybe go in the OT and the Isles get this one. But knocking that over down to a 4.5 and then knocking the Isles price down within a pick 'em range. That's the way to play this year. I definitely can't trust the Kraken, like you said, on that second night of back-to-back run. That is just absolutely dreadful and a long run to boot.
Yeah, it's hard to explain how bad it is, the Seattle team on a back-to-back. To lose 14 straight times on the second night of back-to-back games, it's almost inexplainable. You would think you'd, luck your way into winning one of those games, and that just has not happened here for them. So crazy stat, but 14 straight on a back-to-back. This team has fallen short. A lot of those too, they won the previous night. I do notice that as well. So again, that's really the main reason why I'm on the Islanders here. I don't know if I'd be on them if it wasn't for that, quite honestly, but definitely looking in that direction. I do want to point out Mason Marchment for Seattle. He's a streaky scorer. Finally scored last game. I could see him maybe getting on the back of the net once again here tonight and scoring another goal. He can sometimes score goals in bunches. And of course, my guy Emil Heineman, got to keep taking him for the New York Islanders here as well. All right, those were the 3 afternoon games. The next 3 games on the slate are all night games for Sunday night. Colorado and Chicago. We have Colorado minus 250 road favorites. Total 6.5 in this one. Now you're seeing why it was kind of disappointing for Chicago to lose again in Buffalo the other night and play that way, because you had the unfortunate loss against Seattle where, you had a bad third period, but the referees had a hand in that too with that bogus unsportsmanlike conduct penalty to Bedard. But then to come back and be so terrible right now in Buffalo the next night was very disappointing. And the problem with now losing the Seattle game, losing the Buffalo game, is now you've got this red-hot Colorado Avalanche team coming in here to Chicago. That's the concern. That being said, for Colorado, it's back-to-back on the road, playing in Nashville last night, getting a 3-0 win against the Predators. You look at what we saw last year and the last couple of years in Chicago with the Avs taking on the Blackhawks. We've seen the Blackhawks be competitive. They beat them here 3-1 in actually last year in January. They got a 3-1 win at home against Colorado, and then Colorado came back to Chicago later in the season in April toward the end of the year, and the Avalanche won, but it was 3-2 in a shootout. It was a very, very competitive game there. I'm going to take Chicago puck line here just to be a little bit safe because I do think you're going to see them after the 2 losses in a row play hard tonight. Whether that's enough to win, we'll see. The way this Colorado team's rolling, that's a big if. But to compete, when they've beaten Colorado once at home, and obviously when they took them to a shootout at home in the other meeting last year, when Colorado came to the United Center, I think that +1.5 is a good look here. +1.5 puck line for Chicago. You can get that around -120, -125 right now, -130 in some spots. So shop around for that puck line. And a small little sprinkle on the draw here. I can't resist with knowing that one of those 2 games in Chicago went past regulation last year. We'll dabble in that as well at a very good price because of the fact you're talking about Colorado as a sizable road favorite here in this game. Colorado's rolling. It's like I don't love dipping my toe in to step in front of them right now, especially with the way they're scoring goals and the way they're getting goaltending too. This is not going to be an easy game for Chicago, but I think after losing to Seattle and Buffalo, especially the Buffalo game, the fashion they did, you'll see Chicago certainly step up and play a better game as a team here in this one. Burakovsky still out for them. Brindley and Nichushkin still out for Colorado. Spencer Knight is already confirmed in net for Chicago. No surprise there. Wedgwood projected right now for the Colorado Avalanche here in this game against the Chicago Blackhawks as well. Noting, of course, that Mackenzie Blackwood was in net for the shutout last night. And that was good to see for him because he's kind of been in the shadows of Scott Wedgwood early in the season for Colorado. And to see him get a shutout kind of puts his name back out there to Jared Bednar, where it's, don't forget about me. And that was definitely Mackenzie Blackwood's best game of the season by far, because actually Nashville came out storming shots on goal wise in that game against Colorado, but Mackenzie Blackwood was able to hold the fort early and allow the Avs to get that win. Alex, what do you think here, Colorado, Chicago?
This is a game where I definitely want to wait for a live over 6 full game. I think this game could get ugly up and down. And Perlo's saying the same thing, but he said, but he thinks this could be more one-sided to Colorado, which I think Colorado could win this game by margin. But I think the Hawks are going to get some offense as well. So I do like the over 6.5 at -$1.02. That's not bad, but try and get plus money with the 6.5, or ideally get the 6 and knock it down. But I feel like this could be a back and forth battle. Now they said the Hawks, you got to show some life and some fight after what happened in Buffalo. You can't just roll down and lay over, even if this is a great Colorado team and a team that can, score on you at will. And even with Spencer Knight and that, we've seen him give up some soft goals at times against quality teams. This is an Avalanche team. They know how to shoot, where to shoot from, and can certainly give this Hawks defense some fit. So we'll be looking at the over. Also have some player props as well. This is a check the Patreon page game for me because I'll have quite a bit as far as prop go for both sides. You know what I mean?
Tyler Bertuzzi, yes. Goals in back-to-back games. As Jonathan points out, first goal of the game in 3 of the last 8. First Chicago goal in back-to-back and 5 of 9. Yes. So
I will be on first Chicago goal, not necessarily first goal of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Again, and you can find these markets available. DraftKings, BetMGM, FanDuel, a lot of those have that. So, again, first team goal score. Very important to designate that. Yeah, Ross Colton, I'm going back to the well with the goal prop because he's been shooting a lot lately. He scored a couple of times for the Avalanche of late. You're getting some good value there. Down the lineup with him right now and playing, or not down the lineup, up the lineup with to the second line with Nelson and Landeskog right now for the Colorado Avalanche. Oliver Moore on the second line. We saw him. It was a fortunate goal that he got early in the week against Calgary, but still, Nazar and Teravainen, Ryan Green with Bedard and Bertuzzi, there's probably some value there as well, so keep that in mind. As far as some Chicago players that I'd be considering for props in this game here tonight. All right, next up, we've got Boston, San Jose. Boston minus 130, road favorites, 6 the total here in this game. Interesting game because San Jose is playing back-to-back. They were home to Ottawa last night, lost 3-2. Boston has the rest advantage. They were in LA Friday night, and they got the big win in overtime against the Los Angeles Kings for Marco Sturm, who was, of course, formerly not a player and an assistant coach in the Kings organization back in the day. San Jose obviously has been very good on home ice of late. That loss to Ottawa last night snapped what had been a 4-game win streak for the San Jose Sharks on home ice. Like I said, Boston coming off the 2-1 overtime win against LA. Last year, these teams met twice, and the home team won each time. San Jose at home as a home underdog is obviously, as you guys know, I either bet San Jose or I leave the game alone. I'm just waiting to see who's going to be in net. Obviously, I fully expect Askarov on a back-to-back. That I'm damn confident we're going to see him. And with the way he's playing right now, I'm probably going to end up on San Jose in some form. I'm just waiting to make sure the lineups are what I'm looking for. The goaltending matchup is also what I'm looking for here in this game. Keep in mind with Askarov, 6-1 in his last 7 starts. So like I said, it's been very impressive. And that Kings game that they won with him in net the last time he started, 4-3 at home against the Kings, that was the first time in those 7 games that he allowed more than 2 goals. So that tells you how good Askarov has been in between the pipes here for this San Jose Sharks team. The first time in 7 that Askarov had allowed more than 2 goals in a game was that LA game, and they still ended up winning 4-3. So very strong lean on the Sharks. Probably will end up being on the Sharks. It's just not something I've locked in as of yet. Again, check the Patreon page. You're probably going to see San Jose there later in the day. Alex, what do you think here? Bruins Sharks.
I really like this draw. I grabbed this morning at plus 340. I also grabbed William Eklund to get the game-winning goal in overtime at 80-1.
Yeah, you know what? I think the draw is not a bad option here, too. I could see it, certainly. Boston, by the way, the LA game went past regulation. San Jose's, already played 2 overtime games in the 3 so far on this homestand that they're on. So, yeah, the draw is probably a solid option here in this game as well between these 2 teams. As far as props go, you look at the matchup here, and Morgan Geekie, 2 games in a row with a goal for the Boston Bruins. He's been in good form, but again, I've talked about this with the Bruins, that they've got some players that are undervalued based on their positions in the lineup. Usnadinov, Steves, and Blumel in the top 6 are players that stand out. Maybe you look toward their props right now as based on where they are in the lineup currently. When you look at San Jose, Phil Kurashev on the top line. He scored a goal against LA a couple of games ago, still playing up there with Celebrini and Smith. So, like I said, Phil Kurashev definitely undervalued there, playing up on that left wing top line side with Macklin and with Will Smith at the moment. All right, our last game of this Sunday card, we've got Calgary and Vancouver. Vancouver rather, minus 140. Home favorites, 6 the total. I mean, how do you lay a price with Vancouver right now? They're a shit show in their own end from a defensive standpoint. Absolutely terrible defensively right now. But at the same point in time, the other option is you take Calgary, who aren't that great. They have won 2 in a row. Let's give them a little due, but still not a great team, one of the worst teams in the Western Conference, and you're getting them on a back-to-back after playing Dallas last night at home. And now you got to play Vancouver here on a back-to-back. So this is just impossible for me from a side perspective. Can't take Vancouver at minus 140 right now in their current form. But I don't really want to rush to bet Calgary here back-to-back after a win against Dallas. I can't believe I'm saying this, but right now the goalie that's not playing nearly as well as the other guy. Talking about Dustin Wolf in comparison to Devin Cooley. Never thought I'd say that in a million years right now. What I will do here in this game is bumper stumpers this game. Not out till we lose 2 on the Vancouver overs. I know it's always a little dicey to bet overs with Calgary, but I could see an over here in this game on the back-to-back. And plus we're getting 5.5 minus 135 here at DraftKings with this over. So at 5.5, yeah, I'll take a shot here with a Vancouver team that is still 10-1 to the over in their last 11 games entering tonight. And I'll say this about the Flames. But while we have criticized and ripped apart their inability to score goals, they have now scored three of the last 4 games. They scored 3 against Winnipeg. Game went over the total. 6 goals against Buffalo. Got to 3 last night against Dallas. 3 of their last 4 games have gone over the total. Calgary entering tonight. So, yeah, over 5.5 for me. Calgary overs have not been on the betting card very often, but we'll make an exception tonight with this 10-1 Vancouver overrun. And a horrible defensive team at the moment. You watch the Canucks, there's just so many gaffes. There's just so many breakdowns right now in coverage defensively for this Vancouver Canucks team. So, like I said, I feel bad for Rome Ticklin there in the chat there as a Canucks fan. But, your team's got some issues in their own end right now, and that's something that clearly Adam Foote has to keep working with this team on. Alex, what do you think here, Calgary, Vancouver?
Yeah, I like this draw a little bit too. I grab plus 320. Over at they said, you can get that minus 135. If not, wait live for that. Maybe wait for that to drop down closer to a pick'em range, get a better price. But I could definitely see some goals back and forth here. Like I said, Cooley has outplayed Wolf. That is certainly something I didn't expect to say or hear either, but that's been the case so far. So, we've seen Wolf give up some soft goals, especially early. This might be one where the over by factor actually live is worth looking at, not just full game over. I might dabble in that first period over as well. So a good one, the interesting one to wrap up the night with. And it could be back and forth and a little fun to watch.
Here's the thing for Vancouver, and obviously, again, here we go again with the issues at home. 3-7 this season at Rogers Arena in Vancouver, just like last year where they played better on the road. At some point, you got to find a way to win games. And you're going on a West Coast California swing after this. You're playing in Anaheim, San Jose, and LA, and none of those games are going to be easy. I'm not a huge Kings fan, but even they're still a capable, solid team. And we know Anaheim and San Jose are a hell of a lot peskier and better this year. So this is a got-to-have-it kind of feel to it, Vancouver tonight. But I'm not laying minus 140. As I said,
this could be the beginning of the end for him too. When you talk about 4 division games in a row, if you only get 1 or 2 points out of this stretch, that's going to be a big dent in any plans you have moving forward.
No doubt. All right, good stuff. And the one thing about Calgary too, even though defensively they've been better than offensively, I find sometimes when they're on these back-to-backs, they've had more of a propensity to struggle at times as far as the D zone is concerned. So keep that in mind. And I also think if I go back and I look at Calgary's track record this year, a couple back-to-backs where they've lost and they've given up goals. So keep that in mind. All right, good stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And like I said, we keep the Sunday show rolling at a brisk pace so that we can get the show in and everyone can move on to the NFL when it begins at the top of the hour. That's always the goal with the Sunday show. So appreciate it. Hit the like button. Check out wizardsportspicks.com. I'm there. Alex, Matt Robinson, tons of great handicappers, a great roster. It really is. So check it out. I did the Beyond the Lines video for Sunday. Check that out as well. I do that video Thursdays and Sundays over on the Wizard Sports Picks YouTube channel. So check it out. Premium Picks Daily, wizardsportspicks.com. And check out patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts. Make sure you check all that out, all the bonus content. We are going to have an exclusive live betcast coming very soon here in the month of November. We're going to spring it on people the day of, so make sure you get on board Patreon to be there and be part of our first exclusive live betcast of the season, which will take place before the end of November. $10 per month. Your subscription and membership goes a long way to supporting the show, keeping it going long term. So check it out, $10 per month. Get on board, patreon.com/Ice Guys.
Yeah, goalie chart update will be coming later today as well over there at patreon.com. But also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Holidays are coming around the corner. Black Friday will start a 3-day sale. I can tell you what it is right now, too. 30% off of orders $70 or more. And that'll last 3 days starting on Black Friday, so you don't want to miss that. So take a look at what you're looking for now. Get everything in line, and then Black Friday, you'll be able to save some money. and definitely shop at the Ice Guys store. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Well, they got a little curveball here in Buffalo. Picked it back, and Pickle Peppers is in net for the Buffalo Sabres this afternoon. Okay. Going back to UPL, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Be careful, Buffalo and Lindy Ruff, about falling in love with that guy's performance based on the Chicago game. He didn't face many shots. Chicago was horrible in that game. I didn't think they tested him enough. So I've got to see more from UPL. Before that Chicago game, his season to this point has been less than stellar. Let's put it that way. So we'll see how he fares. And remember, with this Carolina team, we talked about this with Comrie. Every game they play, they shot volume kings. He's going to face some rubber today, probably, in all likelihood, UPL. So we'll see how he handles it. All right, we got Bargain Bin Special of the night. Best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
Kings and queens shop.
Thanks to all our sponsors, including Royal Cannabis. Check them out, royalcannabisshop.com, 20% off with promo code IceGuys. Yeah, definitely could be traded, UPL. Good point with that. He obviously has to play to increase his trade value. That's true. You're also trying to win hockey games because as crazy as it is to say, Buffalo's still in the mix here in the Eastern Conference, as crazy as that is to say. But you're right. They do have to get UPL some starts. They're trying to get everybody. It's like a bunch of cooks in the kitchen, and they're trying to let every chef prepare a meal right now.
Yeah.
Ellis, Lyon, UPL, and they're just trying to, keep everybody going a little bit here with this Buffalo goaltending rotation. All right, we'll try to keep things going a little bit here with the Bargain Bin Special winning rotation here on this Sunday. Alex, we'll start with you. Bargain Bin Special of the night.
Yeah, I got two of them. We'll start with the first one in the Central Division battle. You got Minnesota skating on up to take on Winnipeg. I like Jonathan Toews to get a goal there for the Jets. You get his anytime goal plus 450 was the price I saw at FanDuel. So Jonathan Toews to get a goal for Winnipeg. That's my bargain bin special number one. Bargain bin special number two will come from that Boston-San Jose game. And like you said, he's skating on the top line. He had been scoring early, kind of cooled off a little bit. But give me Uncle Philip Kurashev, anytime goal scorer plus 360 over at FanDuel for the San Jose Sharks. That's bargain bin special number two. So Jonathan Toews plus 450 and Philip Kurashev plus 360. Those are my two bargain bin specials for the Sunday night.
All right, there we go. A couple bargain bin specials. Jonathan Toews, Phil Kurashev, two former Chicago Blackhawks on to find the back of the net here today. One of those games, of course, an afternoon game, the Minnesota and Winnipeg game. But two bargain bin specials for Alex here with this Sunday slate. Bargain bin special for me, a couple of different options I was going back and forth on. But I'm just going to make sure for Minnesota, he's still in the spot. Yeah, Danila Yurov for the Minnesota Wild. You can get a pretty good price there at plus 540. Again, I think the chances of Winnipeg giving up goals goes up now, with Comrie in net a little bit. And we saw that Carolina puts 4 on the board the other night. And I think Minnesota could be able to score some goals. I'm already on the Wild team total over. We'll add the money line if Wallsted's in. And I think Danila Yurov, as long as he stays on that top line, playing alongside Kaprizov and Zuccarello, there's going to be good value on him. So there you go. Danila, Urov, Minnesota, plus 540 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, smaller Sunday cards will get a little more creative than usual. Let's go with that parlay of the Islanders and over 4.5. Best price available is minus $1.02 at BetMGM when you combine those together. Like I said, can't back Seattle with a terrible trend in the second night of back-to-backs. Knock down that 5.5 to 4.5, and that helps knock down that money line price with the Isles. So New York Islanders tied to the over 4.5. That is my Sunday best bet.
There you go. Islanders and over 4.5 parlay against the Seattle Kraken, and their miserable 0 losing streak on the second night of back-to-backs. We'll see if that continues here today. All right, my best bet. Let's go to the latest game on the card. We're not out till we lose 2 with this run of betting overs in Vancouver Canucks games. I've not bet Calgary over very often this season, but we're making an exception here tonight. Calgary, Vancouver, over 5.5, minus 135 for my best bet for this Sunday. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And again, tomorrow, later show, delayed show, but it'll be around 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, the usual time on a Monday. So make sure you're with us for that. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, Tuesday to Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back with you tomorrow on Monday for another edition of the Ice Guys.